before I actually begin, I have to begin how my dad would begin. That would be by saying thank you to Risa and Marilyn and to Fran, who over these last approximately 2 years really went out of their way, more than anyone could ever expect, to take care of my dad. With all logistics, doctor's visits, Shabbos dinners, whatever he needed. It's impossible to begin a eulogy about my dad without first mentioning his dad, Saul Hoffman. My dad always kept a picture of his dad on his desk because his dad was his inspiration. So my dad's dad, Saul, grew up in Czechoslovakia, which is part of the Russian Empire. Came to America in 1902, settled in St. Louis, and was in the egg business. My dad's mom was named Rose, but she passed away when my dad is 3 years old. Last summer I took my dad to visit his parents at their graves. My dad stood next to his dad's grave, and with a feeling of love and adoration, he said, "Pop, he was a great man." I say, "Dad, you're also a great man." So let me reminisce about a great man. My dad, Harold Hoffman, was born in 1929, the youngest of 8 children. Being the youngest of 8 children and having a mother who had passed away when he was young, often his older brothers and sisters had to watch out for him. But 50, 60, 70 years later, my dad returned the favor when his siblings became elder, and he helped them with their doctor visits, arranging nursing homes and finances and whatever else needed to be done for them. He grew up on Waterman Avenue. Every morning, I think one of the egg stories might have been that he would eat 3 raw eggs every morning for breakfast. I think for most of his life he ate 3 eggs, but he started cooking them. My dad went to Soldan High School. He did speed skating, which a lot of people don't know about him. He also did shot put and played football. He then went to Harris Stowe Teachers College and then on to Washington University. My dad was on the Washington University football team, and one year when it was 1949, I had to look this up, when Rosh Hashanah fell on a Saturday, the Jewish players told the coach they couldn't play that day. The coach said, "Play or clean out your locker." So my dad and all the Jewish players cleaned out their locker. This is 1949, 16 years before Sandy Koufax. In addition to football, my dad was very involved with fraternity life. He was president of his fraternity for a couple of years. And from what I heard over the years from my dad's friends, they always had the best parties on campus. They may have actually invented the drink Purple Passion, which they would mix in the bathtub. When my dad was president of the fraternity, this fraternity received some national recognition when they initiated Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin into the fraternity when these two came to St. Louis on a trip. And they did it before one of their shows at the Fox Theater. So my dad ended up graduating with a teacher's certificate from Harris Stowe and a bachelor's degree in retailing from Washington University. He met my mom when he worked for the May Company. My mom was a secretary in his department. In the late 1960s, my dad and a partner opened a women's coat store named Coats and Things. I'm sure you may remember the jingle in their ads, coats, coats, coats and things. But he'd always wanted to be a teacher. But he went into business because he wanted to make more money. I should have followed his advice this time. To feed his teaching passion, every spring he taught a course in retailing at St. Louis Community College. Because he was a busy businessman, he couldn't teach a class like 3 days a week at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. His class was only once a week at 6 a.m. And the students had to wear business dress. So here we have college students, 6 a.m. for a 3-hour class wearing a business suit. But they did. In fact, some of his best employees were recruited from this class. My dad, as the rabbi mentioned, was very involved in synagogue life, served as president, and he was notorious for butchering everyone's name when he would give the bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah speech. But no one minded, because they all loved my dad. Every Shabbos morning, he sat next to Simon Cohen, who was his best friend. And every other week, either my dad or Simon, they would alternate who would get Hagbah. Both very competitive people. It became a competition on who could have the best Hagbah. It got such a competition, the rabbi had to intervene and squelch it and limit how big, how much, how wide they could have the Torah when they lifted it. My dad taught me how to do Hagbah, and although it requires strength, the key is really its mechanics on how to lift it. And I always liked getting Hagbah because it was my dad's aliyah. For relaxation, my dad did yard work. He'd wake up on Sunday morning in the spring and the summer, 5 a.m. and work for at least 8 hours. He liked pulling weeds, trimming bushes, trimming the branches. He cut roses with the precision of a surgeon. And he particularly liked riding his riding mower while smoking his cigar. He also liked laying on the beach with his cigar and also driving around his convertible with his cigar. But he said he never inhaled. My mom passed away in 2007. He married Fran in 2010. And my dad always treated my mom, it was a textbook on how a husband should treat their wife. He anticipated all her needs and treated her like a queen. Also when my dad was married to Fran, I thought they always made the cutest couple. Whenever they were together, he always had like this little boy smirk on his face. I learned many important lessons from my dad. Just to mention a few, was the value of education, hospitality, giving charity, and doing good deeds without any recognition, showing appreciation, always doing your best, and being a proud Jew. I could give dozens of examples on each one of these. Despite my dad's busy schedule running a business, working for the synagogue, maintaining the best yard in the neighborhood, being a great husband, he never missed one of my hockey games. In fact, he'd actually come up every one of my home games in college. And 20 years ago, when I lived in St. Louis again for a few years, he actually came to most of the classes I taught. When I was in middle school and high school, we literally spent hundreds of hours in the basement because I was a goalie and he would shoot tennis balls at me to try to help me with my reflexes. And my hockey games to sit with my friends because he was always one of the guys. And all my friends would always comment, "How come you can't be more like your dad?" At the time I didn't see it as a compliment, but now I do. My dad had a personality that was appealing to everyone. And he liked to tell a good story as well as repeat the story. So, my dad was very proud of everything me, my sister Sheila, her granddaughter Lindsay, and also my kids ever did. He would brag about how Sheila was the top salesperson year after year when she worked for the Limited. Over the past 10 years, almost every conversation I had with my dad, he would brag about Lindsay, how she managed 2 jobs and was an honor roll student. Even after she graduated out here, how much she was an honor roll student. But Lindsay was more than just a granddaughter. It was as if she was like the third daughter. She was with my dad during his final few hours. I'm sure it was a source of comfort for him. He was also proud of my kids. He liked to hear of Avi hitting the game-winning shot, which he did numerous times in basketball. You'll like to hear how Abby, in one game, had a goal, 2 assists, and 12 penalties for being too aggressive. I think that's called a Gordie Howe hat trick. This eulogy is not just a son talking about his dad. It's a eulogy from everyone. So I'd like to just read a few messages I received over the last 24 hours about my dad from cousins and friends who are not able to be here. They wrote, "His warmth and kindness was always so powerfully felt. He would ask each of us how we were, but not in a generic way, like so many people do." Another wrote, "He was always my favorite great uncle." Another wrote, "Over the years, your dad was always there when we needed him." Another one, "He always treated me so well when I came over." He was like a grandfather to Yitzchak, our son. "It was a privilege to know your dad. He was so loving, sweet, and endearing to all. I loved visiting him at every cousin's club, giving him a giant bear hug, and sitting and talking with him." So those are some words from some cousins. So Dad, just like you like to tell a good story, that was my story of you. You fashioned a life that was amazing, but you always thanked God for everything that you had and for everything you could achieve. And you added value to so many people's lives. So Dad, I love you, and we're all going to miss you.